You are listening to the Push Media Podcast Network.
This is good shit.
Point of fact, it would be distasteful for me to begin with anything other than offering my sincere condolences to the entire Dolph family and everyone out there in Memphis. Mafia! North Memphis, particularly, is home to Juicy J, who I think is probably one of the most underrated rappers in the history of the game. And if you disagree with me, couple points of fact. 1, you're wrong. 2, look it up. 3, Kanye said it. And 4, Juicy J got an Oscar before Leonardo DiCaprio did, and that is an actual fact, so look that up. But in all seriousness, my condolences to young Dolph, Key Glock, and actually their aunts, grandmoms, mothers, children, people who were a victim of a fucking murder. It's fun to talk about rappers getting shot. Who doesn't love that? You know, it is, because it's not really a thing as much, even though there's kind of been a resurgence with that sad SoundCloud kid from Orlando getting shot at the face over ATV or something. Now young Dolph's getting it. And young Dolph wasn't like tremendously popular, but he had a few songs. He had some hits. I'll never forget, there was a line on a young Dolph song where he said, and I quote, "She love to argue, so I sent that bitch to law school." A, tremendous line. B, great message. C, kind of feminist, if you think about it. So young Dolph was ahead of his time, and it's a shame we lost him. Now to the fun stuff. A lot of people think Soulja Boy had him killed. Soulja Boy, that guy, Soulja Boy. You know Soulja Boy, who first burst onto the scene at the height of ringtone rap in 2006? Regardless of actually how old you were at that point in time, I guarantee you the first time you heard Crank That, you were in middle school. I don't give a shit if you're 45 or if you're 11 right now. First time you heard Crank That, you were at a middle school dance. That's just what I believe about that. But somehow Soulja Boy has maintained relevance all of this time. I mean, we're going on like 15 years, folks. It doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, he's got 2 songs, both of them remnants of a day of yesteryear I think we would all like to forget. Who doesn't want to forget what happened at their middle school dance? I kissed my first girl at a middle school dance and she ended up doing heroin, and I don't think she's doing well. That's a real story. The point is, Soulja Boy was not even remotely as influential, talented, skillful at his craft as young Dolph. I'll just go out on a ledge and say that. Please don't have me killed, Soulja Boy. This is Soulja Boy, the man who had a series of inventions that were just spurious knockoffs of current technology. There was at one point in time he tried to launch a GameCube-like gaming console and just called it SouljaCast or some bullshit. Like literally like he was trying to make a Gamecast out of Malibu's Most Wanted. I never thought Soulja Boy was real. I thought he was kind of like this slightly more mainstream Lil B. Just an absolute joke, like a person who has come to symbolically encapsulate meme energy. You know, just a byproduct of the internet and satire and anti-humor. Something that we got to tolerate, we can appreciate, but at the end of the day is still a person who's just a fucking joke, you know? But apparently Soulja Boy and young Dolph had beef over something. Probably the fact that Soulja Boy is a fucking ridiculous clown person. Young Dolph said something like he sucks or he's not good at rapping. And if you actually listen, there's pretty like famous rappers now like Kanye, T.I., like people you kind of respect, I guess, if you follow rap, who'd give Soulja Boy props as someone who actually made an impact or an influence on culture. As if Kiss Me Through the Phone did anything for anybody at all. No one even calls anybody on the phone anymore. Kiss Me Through the Phone, send me a picture of your genitals if you really love me. That's what it is in 2021. All right, back on track. So young Dolph, Soulja Boy had beef, but like a week before young Dolph was killed at a cookie store, which you can't make that shit up at all. What a gangster way to go out, waiting for a fucking hot chocolate chip cookie. Soulja Boy's talking all this shit on Instagram Live, but then the day before, literally says, and everyone assumed it was a joke, that he would put a $100,000 bounty on young Dolph's head while holding up the stereotypical rapper stack of cash that was probably on loan from some jeweler. But then, lo and behold, the very next day, young Dolph, waiting for his cookies, gets shot. Now, I'm not one to connect dots that are not there. I know that you all know I like to stay away from leaps of faith in logic and storylines and stuff like that. I want all of the facts. I am never going to hypothesize recklessly as to what is actually the case or what happened. Now, legally, that's out of the way, Soulja Boy 100% killed young Dolph, and we should all kill Soulja Boy. Allegedly, that's not a real statement, but I think that's what happened. Because, I mean, the dude, while holding $100,000, said publicly, I'm going to put a $100,000 bounty on your head. And then young Dolph takes a break from the studio, from being a real G, to get a cookie. Because you can't be a gangster 24/7. That shit is taxing. If you don't believe me, read Iceberg Slim's book. That shit can take a toll on you. So every now and then a player want to take a break and get a cookie. Goddamn. And he can't even do that because Soulja Boy, the creator of the Soulja Cast console system, had you killed? Goodness gracious, this is not North Korea. We can't allow behavior like that. We gotta murder Soulja Boy. That's my take on that. I think that's a little more level-headed, because originally I was going to open up with young Dolph was murdered over a series of bombshell articles that he was planning to release after Seth Rich was killed by the Clintons. So I think I've decided to go a little more rational and assume we should all grab our pitchforks and murder Soulja Boy. So now to the good stuff. Kamala Harris, congratulations, is the first woman to be sworn in as an acting president. That's not me being delirious. That's not me switching sides. That's just an actual fact, whether you knew it or not, and I sure hope I get to be the first person to tell you, Kamala Harris is president right now. That's an actual true thing. That's real, that's true, because Joe Biden is getting a colonoscopy. That's actually this is all real. This is all truth. Joe Biden, right before his birthday, right before his 39th birthday, is getting his annual bicentennial colonoscopy, which he gets every 250 years he's alive. And if you don't know what a colonoscopy is, that's when someone medically puts a finger in your ass and deems you too senile to be president. And in the meantime, Kamala Harris was sworn in as an acting president. So literally right now, this day, November 19th, 2021, Kamala Harris is president. And I'm somebody who likes to say, I told you. Told you. I guarantee you this colonoscopy is somehow going to result in Joe Biden contracting anal COVID-19. There's no way that this does not end well, you know? And I don't even know if ending well is the right term to use, because it's not like I'm in a rush for Biden to get back in the president's chair, because it's not like that's going tremendous. And I guess it's also good news that Kamala's president, because at least we know where she is. At least finally we know that she hasn't been murdered or killed by a COVID booster or an enemy of a foreign government. Speaking of foreign governments, it was a news story today that I saw that the Department of Justice arrested 2 Proud Boy members, very active Proud Boy members, people that organized a lot of meets, that would help distribute a lot of materials, videos. They would also go so far as to call and harass Democratic officials, leaders in the party, just generally progressive people online. So the Department of Justice arrests these 2 people. And I'm sure you're thinking, well, Colin, why would the Department of Justice arrest 2 Proud Boys? It's not illegal to be a Proud Boy. I'm a Proud Boy. I'm a little fat girl. Isn't it interesting what groups do with titles? Because if you pick the right one, it's very hard to be opposed to them, because you're saying, like, what's wrong with being a Proud Boy? What, Black lives don't matter? It's all fucking word magic. But to the larger point here, the Department of Justice arrests these 2 Proud Boys because they were, in fact, not Proud Boys. They were undercover spies from Iran, and Iran so far away from the Department of Justice because I'm undercover. Isn't that some shit? That's crazy. That's not really talked about. That shit was kind of buried. I had to come across that article. But it's real shit. And what I was reading was wild. So these two imposter Proud Boys, these fake Proud Boys, were actually Syed Mohammed Hassan Musa Kazimi and Sajed Kashian. Now, regardless of if I either nailed that or severely offended parts of the world with my pronunciation of those two names, the fact remains those two guys were able to literally attend rallies, white supremacy rallies, people from Iran. And if you haven't traveled or read a book or know literally anything and you're stupid, people from Iran are not traditionally the whitest folk. So somehow they were able to, almost in like a Chappelle-esque way, attend these white supremacy rallies as not a white person. And all those bozos dumb enough to think white supremacy is the way to go, they don't notice at all the fact that there's two members there with a fucking turban on. Probably not, but you get my point. Hyperbole is effective. And the article I was reading about them, it didn't say anything about whether or not these two alleged fake Proud Boys attended the January 6th march on the Capitol, but I was sure as fuck expecting to hear that. And it hasn't been, ruled out, so maybe it's possible. Maybe it's possible that January 6th is a day that has a whole lot of unanswered questions still. Like the fact the FBI had other Proud Boys texting them real-time updates. Now, I wonder if they were real Proud Boys or if they were Iranian spies, fuckface. Interesting shit. Interesting shit, I know. It makes you really wonder, if you can trust your own government. Because I'd like to think what the Department of Justice did was find two enemies of the state engaging in election manipulation, hopefully trying to drum up domestic terrorism within groups of citizens already fucking divided. But in order to do that, those same, groups within the government would have to infiltrate these groups. They would have to, put themselves within them, earn trust, attend meetings, say a lot of the same heinous shit, maybe partake in a lot of the same heinous acts to gain the trust of these groups and infiltrate in the first place. And if you allow that thought to come into your head when trying to keep track of any of this shit, every event sounds, at some point or another, like another Jonestown where the government was just trying to get everyone to kill themselves. And that's just one example. It's been proven time and time again just how far certain fractions, shadowy, fucking skunk works within our own government have gone, what they've done to get whatever they were looking for or were hoping for, without any care for American citizens who are innocent, who just had to be on the receiving end of an experimental shot of syphilis, or had to go try out this new way of life down at Jonestown with the Reverend from San Francisco, who was, based in San Francisco, which at the time was a hotspot of CIA mind control. The list goes on and on. It just don't stop. But at least Kamala's president now to help clean up the streets and lock up people for their third strikes. Good news, whoopee. Yay, yay. Yay, yay. I don't know what that was either, but it overtook me. A lot of things do. I'm a pretty sensitive fella. I feel a lot. Not to sound gay, though it is a little gay, or maybe pussy-like, who knows? But I'm always, taking in shit. I can't just read something. I can, detach. I can do a very good job at compartmentalizing, my personal involuntary feelings. But if I'm hearing a story about another person or reading another story about a group, anything other than me, essentially, I can, put myself so in the shoes of whoever or whatever I'm learning about, and it just takes a fucking toll. Because there is no end in sight to the fuckery. The news is getting weirder. The plots are thickening, as is your bitch. She thick. And do not forget chicken sandwiches mean the government's about to murder somebody new. So make sure you keep an eye out on all your favorite fast food restaurants, because Ghislaine Maxwell's trial's coming up. So somebody cooking up a new chicken sandwich. I guarantee you, I bet all my money, which is not much of it, that There will be a new chicken sandwich on the market within the next 10 days. You heard it here first, second and last, motherfucker. Chicken sandwich means government murder. And I hate government murder. I mean, I understand governments have to murder. I understand people have to murder. I've already gone over, I think there's tons of instances in which it's totally okay to murder people. Just earlier, this very same episode, I was calling for all of us to team up and murder Soulja Boy because he murdered young Dolph. However, I acknowledge myself that it is a vicious cycle. Revenge is not, well, it should not be the motivating force behind your actions, or especially how you distribute justice or punishment, because it can never end. Eventually, it just consumes and consumes until there's nothing left. If we murdered everyone who murdered, eventually there's only one person left. And then that person has to live with the guilt of murdering the second to last person alive. And then we, if we allow that to happen, have to suffer an entire Netflix series called Squid Games, where they tell us what's wrong with our economy. Fuck off. Okay? Our economy, our brand of capitalism is particularly predatory. Is that right, Korea? How about you get better at naming shit? Start with that. As soon as you can title something not stupid as fuck, then I'll maybe be open to your criticism. Fuck a Squid Game. Fuck all squids, point of fact. But I acknowledge that revenge can't be a motivating force because it consumes all. It's not productive. It's negative, not positive. It doesn't make, it takes. You feel me? From the West Coast to the East Coast, blessed in the Middle West, peace in the Middle East. I don't know what that was. The point is, I'm saying all this to get to the fact that Kyle Rittenhouse was found not guilty of murdering people. Now, a lot of people who followed the case or pretended to, the death penalty was on the table in Wisconsin. It's one of the few states in which it is, Pennsylvania being another one for all you listening who might live there. I firmly, even though I think there is an immeasurable amount of reasons, justified reasons to murder somebody, I am firmly, myself, against the death penalty. And I think if you think about it, I don't see how you could support the death penalty because, well, one, government is evil. All governments are essentially a form of organized crime. Ours might be the best. It might be the most effective. It might even actually care about its citizens the most. It does not mean it's not the fucking mafia. The mafia calls itself the family. They care about people, but if you stand in the way or you fuck up a little logistical problem, all of a sudden, your cousin's getting killed on the side of a highway in season 6. And he was supposed to take over the family, so now you're all fucked. Point is, governments can't be trusted. And it is for that very fact, I don't think governments should be trusted to decide when it is justified legally to murder somebody. Murder is awful, but it is at least something I would think is associated most of the time with passion, with such a crazy combination of variables in a specific situation that your whole body, almost on a molecular level, tells you time to murder. You know, it's something that overtakes you. Or you're in the military. And if you're in the military killing people, you have to. That's your job. There's really nothing you could do about that. And that's not even necessarily bad. I mean, I wish there wasn't war, but I'm sure as fuck glad that there's people in this country willing to go through basic training, to go kill a few people in a different country so no one shows up at my door and then blows up my house. It's a sad, hard, rough fact of life, but a fact nonetheless. So Kyle Rittenhouse, not going to be killed by the government, but not even found guilty. And people are up in arms because it seems like there's several videos in which we watched a teenager, a fucking minor. And when I say minor, I mean a child, not someone who works in a mine, with an assault rifle, murder 2 people, injure a third. And you would think if that is something we all captured on video, what else is there to know? Well, how about the fact that the 2 victims who were killed by Kyle Rittenhouse were white guys? I didn't know that shit. I assumed they were black guys. I don't even know why. And when someone pointed that out to me, I was a little embarrassed, to be honest with you, because I'm not politically active on that side of the spectrum one way or the other than the fact that I don't think innocent people should be murdered and we're all equal regardless of what we look like, just to get all that gay shit out the way. But for some reason, I just assumed he killed 2 black people because that's how it was portrayed. It was lumped in. And granted, the reason there was a protest in Kenosha that night was over the police shooting an African-American man named Jacob Blake the previous night in Wisconsin. But the actual incident that we all were following and we're all assuming was an example of white supremacy and growing domestic terrorism, you know, that term the CIA loves to fucking use, was actually just a case of white-on-white crime. And I thought this was America, gosh darn it. I thought we didn't care about white-on-white crime. What the fuck are we doing? And to make matters even weirder for you, if you didn't know, the 2 people that Kyle Rittenhouse killed were not the greatest of people. And again, that's no reason to murder anyone. But just to get real with y'all, one of the victims was named Michael Rosenbaum, and he was a convicted pedophile. That's a real fact. Look that up. There's not going to be any footage of him testifying during the trial because, you know, shot. But he was a convicted pedophile. And you know people love to get all big and tough whenever a pedophile is brought up. They love to say shit like, oh, we should shoot him dead. There shouldn't be a trial. Sure. If you hurt children, fuck you. You can be murdered. You could have anything happen to you. I don't care. However, I think the person doing those horrific things like pulling your limbs apart or burning you or any other form of torture they so choose should be the child's father, should be someone involved or who cares about that victim in the situation. It should not be the fucking government. You know why? Because the government wants power. It is constantly a seesaw of the citizens maintaining their power and individual sovereignty and the government trying to take some. And when we sacrifice or give over any in the name of anything, what we're doing in reality is just losing some. And the seesaw never tips back. If you give up liberty in the name of safety, you deserve neither safety nor liberty. I think Ben Franklin said that. And I think Ben Franklin murdered people. But that doesn't take away from the accuracy of the statement. The lesson learned out of this, whether or not you feel the actual verdict was correct, should be noticing just how much the media can manipulate a narrative around an event. Be honest with yourself. How many of you actually knew that the 2 victims that Kyle shot were white guys? How many of you knew one of them was a convicted pedophile? Obviously, this whole event shouldn't have happened. Most of it, in fact, all of it, is Kyle's fault. He pulled a trigger that killed people. But the one victim who did not die, he testified during the trial to the fact that he pointed a gun at Kyle, who of course himself was owning and holding an assault rifle at the time, so naturally he popped off and fired. But the second you have a gun pointed at you, whether or not you yourself are holding a gun, any action you take after that is self-defense legally. And I sure as hell don't want to live in a world in which we change the legal definition of that. So at least legally, not murder, not guilty. I know it can be sad. The legal system can do a lot of weird things. Bill Cosby is not a rapist thanks to the legal system. That's true. And that might make you say we don't have a great legal system. Sure, there's a lot of issues with it. But I think the way we make sure or safeguard against anything going too wacky to the left or right or up or down or sideways or just flat out wrong is to limit the options on the table during the game, particularly for the state itself. So in terms of punishment, the option on the table of murdering them with state-sponsored liquids and poisons that are shot up into your arm, again by the taxpayer, to murder a person, that one should be taken off the table while the trial is happening. I think that because how many people have been executed when they shouldn't have been? How many people have been arrested? Well, let's start with that. How many people have been arrested for something they shouldn't have been? There's not a single person walking this earth who believes that that's never happened. No matter how pro-police you are, you know for a fact there have been people who have unfairly, inaccurately, and unjustly been arrested and detained. How many stories have you heard about grandmoms in prison for 20 years over growing weed because they have glaucoma in the 80s in South Central or something like that? You have to acknowledge that. I know a lot of cops. I've heard cops say that cops lie. So we all know that this shit could happen. So if we are to acknowledge that, right there out of the gate should be enough for us to say, whoa, maybe death penalty is not an option. Take it a step further, I don't think anyone has the right to murder anybody. I think there's times you should, but you don't have a right to. It was an act of self-preservation. It's the only time it would be justified. And that's legally what they determined happened with Kyle Rittenhouse. Now, I know a lot of people were upset about that, and there's a lot of people that wanted him found guilty, but then that makes me wonder, like, how many of you wanted a 17-year-old killed? Granted, I don't want anyone killed, but it seems a little weird that then you want a 17-year-old killed. You shouldn't. The death penalty, what it does is create a situation in which average Joe Schmoes could find themselves rooting for the death of somebody. And I know this is a weird argument, and anytime it's brought up, we're usually talking about the utmost vile pieces of shit to walk the earth. But still, what that's doing, and if the government of that state at least is down with the death penalty, what it's doing is creating circumstances for people to root for the murder of somebody. I think that's a little fucking strange. So I don't support it. And that's not even taking into account the whole jury thing. A jury of your peers. You know, the people, your coworkers, your friends, your family members, all of the idiots in your life, the thing that they're all qualified and eligible to do at any moment in time. There are legitimately instances in this country, because we allow the death penalty to exist, times in which a person's life hangs in the balance over the decision 9 losers make over the course of a week, several weeks, however long a trial took, while they were getting paid $9 a day. That is real. Think about it. This actually happened. A friend of mine, legitimately someone that I know and communicate with, just recently finished being a jury member on a double homicide trial. This is real. Person couldn't come to work for 2 weeks because they had to go to jury duty and decide whether or not this person may or may not be legally shot up full of poison from the government and kill them. Granted, this person definitely killed the people he was on trial for, and he was found guilty. And this person went on to tell me that the prosecution decided to not request the death penalty because the victims' families didn't want it. So that's great. But what it did was make me realize, oh shit, the death penalty is still a thing in Pennsylvania. I didn't even know that. But what it also made me realize was that this person, who I'm friendly with, but is in no means someone I consider to be, a rocket scientist. In fact, this is someone who told me that Nanette was a good comedy special. And this person was on a jury which maybe could have had a vote in which she had to vote yes or no on the execution of someone. That is bananas to me. That's the biggest proof of all time we shouldn't have the death penalty. Do you know how many fucking idiots are walking around? Next time someone cuts you off in traffic, next time someone fucks up your sandwich order, next time anything goes wrong in the slightest, someone doesn't hold the door for you, some guy at a gas station hits on your wife while you don't say anything because you're a spineless cuck. Next time anything like that happens to you, I would like you to remember the fact that that very same person could go home that night, check their mailbox, and find a jury duty notice, and then get called in to decide if someone dies. I don't believe in the death penalty for the mere fact the use of it is dependent on loser idiots who are not smart enough to get out of jury duty. I've gotten a jury duty. I got a juris duty doctorate down by the Seashore University. I've gotten one jury duty letter in the mail years ago. I think I was almost still in high school, actually. I threw it out because I thought it was unconstitutional of the government to tell me I have to be somewhere someday. I was a little revolutionary at 18. Now I'm just a pragmatist, very level and rational, right? So I threw that shit out. I never went. And I never got one ever again. I don't know how that happened. I know me pointing this out is probably just me screaming into the universe, give me a jury duty notice. I don't know how. I really don't know how it happened. I think probably because I didn't go to the first one. And then I also, by the time I registered to vote, I didn't actually pick a political party. So I'm just not affiliated with anything. And I'm pretty sure that's how jury duty lists are generated. I'm not sure. Could also be the fact I'm being recruited by spies to see the future. So maybe they were looking out. I don't know. Could be fucking anything. Point is, I don't want to be on a jury. No one wants to be on a jury. The people who are on juries are pissed off that they were too dumb to figure out how to get out of it. They're probably not even listening while the lawyer's arguing the events of what happened, what transpired. And then when he's done, when he shuts up and sits down and closes his briefcase, Harry, Dick, and Tom have to deliberate on whether or not potassium chlorate's going to get shot into someone's veins. I am against it. I don't think it's cool. I don't think it's a good idea. No one asked me, but I'm going to tell you. Kyle Rittenhouse, piece of shit, real bad kid. Shouldn't have been found guilty. Shouldn't have been executed by the state. But the biggest villain in this story is his fucking mom. That fucking cheesehead. What mother drives your kid with an assault rifle to a known riot and then says, have fun, be safe? That mother should be on trial for endangering a child. I don't know her name, but I think her and Soulja Boy are equally to blame.